friends. This is the Be Real Babe podcast, a place where your average babes come together to talk about life stresses, messes, and successes. A place where being yourself is the ultimate goal, where your opinion, your story, and your individual experience matters. Join me, your host B, and my guests for real and raw talks every week, laying it all out there so we can all help each other learn more, grow deeper, and evolve collectively. Now keep in mind, as a disclaimer, no one here is an expert and no one is giving any advice. This is strictly our opinions, thoughts, feelings, and for entertainment purposes only. Now with that being said, it's time. So grab your drink, grab your joint, and let's jump right in. Welcome everyone. Welcome to the Be Real Babe podcast. If this is your first time here, thank you so much for stopping by the show today. I hope that you have a good time. And if you're a returning listener, watcher, supporter, thank you guys so much from the bottom of my heart for coming back time and time again. For those that don't know me, my name is Brandy and I am the host of the show. And today you guys are on episode 176, Being Real About Women's Health with Oracle Beauty Lifestyle. You guys, I am again excited. Another guest episode. I have been loving this in season 7. I hope you guys have been too. I have been so absolutely grateful for my guests and these conversations. They're so empowering. They're so raw. They're so real. And this one is no different. I love this one so much because I have been fangirling this individual for so long. She shares so much and she cares so deeply about the women in her life that could be in her life, just any of them in general. And I'm super excited for you guys to hear from her. But before we get to the episode, I just want to remind you, if you are listening on the video platforms like YouTube and Rumble, to like, subscribe, turn on those notifications, and make sure you're following the new YouTube, you guys, the new one, not the one with 70 subscribers, the one with 7. Please go follow that one. The other one is hacked. So I'm not going to be posting up there. If you are listening on the audio platforms like Spotify or Apple, you can also turn on notifications and follow and give a review if you guys can. Really appreciate every single one of them. When I see a new star, I get super excited. So really appreciate that you guys take the time to do that. And if you want to find me on social media, you can find me on Instagram and Pinterest at the Be Real Babe podcast, and also on Facebook at the Be Real Collective. Now, you guys, I just want to thank you again. We're in the second month of season 7. I cannot believe I have done this many already, all solo this season. I hope you have been enjoying it. And as always, guys, if you have a story, an episode, something you want me to talk about, or you want to talk about something, reach out and let me know. I absolutely love having new guests on all the time. And always remember that your story, your opinion, and your experience, they matter to me at least. Maybe not anyone else. No, I'm just kidding. Everyone else cares. Just remember your story matters. So always reach out and don't think that your story or who you are, or, you got a couple followers. I don't care. If you have a story and you want to share it with me, bring it on. But I have a very, very exciting episode to show you guys. So let's just fucking get to it. All right, babes, it's time to get on to the show. And with me today, I have a very special guest joining me for her first time. I'd like to introduce the founder of Oracle Beauty Lifestyle. I'd like to welcome Maria to the show. Hey, babe, how's it going?
Hey, I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for joining me today for this session. I can't wait to get into it with you, talk about women's health. So excited.
Yeah, I'm really grateful to just be given the opportunity, and I'm super excited for our chat.
Yes, me too. I have been fangirling you extra hard every time I need motivation. I'm like, okay, I got to see what this beauty's doing because she is constantly doing something to motivate me. So I just want to thank you for sharing your life and all of that online with all of us, to
Love that.
motivate us. And that's exactly why I wanted to reach out and have you on the show, because I know you're super passionate about helping others, especially women, and being very real and raw about your journey and what you're learning. So I was like, hell yeah, I have to have her on here. But so I'll stop fangirling you for a second, and I'll let you give it a second to tell the community who you are and a little bit about yourself and why I'm so obsessed.
Love it. You're so cute. Yeah, so I was Ontarian, born in Niagara
Ooh,
Falls. Yeah, I'm
great.
actually originally from there. So lived there for 17 years of my life, and then I attended a college there for general arts and science, and that's kind of what sprouted my love for nutrition, which I then ventured off to university in
Cool.
London, Ontario. So I went to Bristol University College, which is an affiliate of Western, and I took a Bachelor of Science in Food Nutrition.
Nice.
Following that, actually, I suppose that during that, there was a lot of things that happened. I was starting my personal training certification, so I started my journey with fitness training at the YMCA. and that ventured into group fitness training at Orange State Fitness. That's when my love for bodybuilding began, which was a while ago, but it's still somewhat ongoing.
Yeah.
And then I also got certifications for strength and conditioning. But following that, I ventured out to BC. My brother was living in Worcester, so he kind of
Nice.
sparked my interest in it. So I'd always see him snowboarding and doing all these crazy things
Yeah.
outdoors. And me and him are very similar. But I originally was in Vancouver. I was working at the premier gym, Steve Nash Gym, downtown Vancouver, and then I ended up getting to Kelowna. So, ironically, but I've been here for about 8 years now.
Wow.
And then throughout that process, like even when I was in university, I was doing online coaching when I started doing my fitness training, more in person.
Yeah.
But once I ventured to Kelowna, I had a daughter during that time. So she's 6 now. I love her. She's a blessing.
Oh.
But yeah, it's such a weird like age now that she's talking and like a real human being. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's such a cool experience. Hardest experience I've been through ever, but yeah, the best one
That's
yet.
fair. Yeah, you're
Um,
doing great.
but she's kind of yeah, she's kind of the reason why I ventured more to online. So during the last like 6 to 7 years, I've talked on quite a few certifications between IFSA nutritionist certification, IFSA food specialist. I'm reading them off so I don't forget.
I know. You got it.
And
There's so much.
hormone specialist certification through Nutrition Coaching Institute, and then I also got the Functional Nutrition and Lifestyle Practitioner Program through the Functional Nutrition Alliance. So lots of education. I'm actually still continuing my education, which people probably think I'm crazy, but I just love learning so much. Lifelong learner.
Yes.
But I'm doing a dual degree with biological sciences. So I'm coming up on my last year
I was gonna
with my
say,
first degree.
I've been
Yeah, I'm
watching
coming up on
you
my
keep
last year.
going. That's awesome.
Man, it's been a long haul, honestly. I've been trying to raise a child for the first 3 years of her life alone and do school and work. And, I give moms and just parents in general that are continuing their education because it's not easy for sure.
Oh my
Um,
goodness, I know. Well, I don't
yeah,
know, but
but
watching you guys, I love the honesty though. It's what most, and that's I think what's so great about moms and that support is that you guys, see each other and you help each other because it is not an easy job. And it's, especially at that age when they're trying to find out who they are and probably a little bit more aggressive,
yeah,
with boundaries and learning. And you're just like, you got that all on your own. That's a lot of energy. So I commend that you guys all have that, you guys recognize each other stuff. And I think that's super important instead of tearing each other down, being like, I get it, queens. I get it. I don't, but you
yeah.
guys do. So.
No, and I appreciate the support from other females because truly, like having a community of supportive females is so essential, especially when you're going through things like that.
Yeah,
But my goal is to like I'm coming up on my last year. I'm planning to apply to naturopathic medicine school
oh,
before I finish my year. So that'll be coming up at the end of this year actually, yeah, that's essentially what I want to incorporate into Oracle Beauty Hub and Oracle Beauty Lifestyle. So that was my long-term goal.
I love it.
Long haul, but I don't give up. Just take breaks.
No. Yes. And the thing
But
is, too, I think a lot of people give up on their dreams because I think they think in this kind of like microwave society that things could happen like this. And if it's truly a long dream and it's something you want to last a long time, I feel like you have to put in the time and you have to understand that sometimes, especially when you can't just drop everything and just focus on that one thing. You've got school, you've got a child, you have your self care, you have your business, right? It's not like you could drop all of those things and then put 100% into that, right? So sometimes those
yeah,
dreams take a little bit longer, but I think that's the most rewarding ones. And especially when you can appreciate the journey that it takes instead of, always focusing on that end goal. It's like, okay, well, I know it's going to take me some time. So I'm just going to roll with the punches. There's going to be some setbacks, but that's okay
oh,
because
there's been
this is
lots
what
of
I want.
punches.
Exactly. And you've been throwing a lot of punches too. That's one thing I'm like, I need to start fighting. I love watching when you get on there and you just start going. I was like,
Which is
yes, girl.
it's so funny because I would never hurt a fly, but it's just like once you're in the ring and you're punching those pads, it's like nothing
Get
can
it.
stop you. Like it's
No.
honestly such a good emotional release. I
Totally.
specifically do it on a day that I have exchange with my daughter because I find
That's
it just
fair.
distracts me. But yeah, I definitely I'm this year for sure. I'm venturing into totally different aspects of fitness, which I really wanted to showcase to other women too.
Yeah.
Like you don't just have to stick to one thing; you can do so many other things. But it's been
Yes.
fun doing it for sure.
Yeah, and I'm sure you've maybe caught in that, and I've noticed myself doing that too. I don't know if it's older age, but it's like there's a point where you're just so focused in like the gym being the movement that you have, and you're like, I'm just gonna go to the gym and I'm gonna lift, and I have to do it for X amount of days. And then I don't know if it's like change in location or age, but now I'm like, I want to do different things. Like I got back into jumping, and like I want to do hiking, and I'd rather do dancing, and now I'm going to the gym like 3 to 4 days a week. I'm still lifting, but I'm just seeing the beauty in other movement, and I've kind of let go of that like need to be at the gym 6 7 days a week, and it's just, I don't know, I've noticed a lot of women, and on our age and around here have been kind of doing that, and I think it's because we have the options of outside too, right, where you could do more things. I don't know if that's an
I
age
think
thing or
I honestly, I feel like it's an age thing. I mean, currently, I would probably say just from my personal experience, I'm like
yeah.
reliving the second half of my 20s. I really
Yeah.
didn't get,
Oh, that's
but like,
awesome.
it's like the secret me being vulnerable there. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's like I think that you rediscover yourself because as you age, you change, and like women go through such different phases. So I think it's a part of like rediscovering your interests and I don't know if other women can relate to this, but I'm at an age now, like I'm 31, but I'm also diving deep into like inner child work. I've been going to therapy for the last few years. So
That's
I've really
awesome.
integrated that into discovering more about myself. So I think that also comes along with it.
Oh, absolutely too. And I guess, yeah, it will just depend on where you're at in that like healing journey of yourself, where that is at your, end of your 20s, beginning of your 30s. Some people get slammed into figuring shit out really early because of maybe some traumas that they have to work through to become functional.
Yeah.
And some people figure it out when they're like later in their 30s or 40s, being like, okay, I'm tired of being miserable. What's going on? And then they start, finding, for me, it was the pandemic that really like forced me inside because I felt like I questioned everything I knew. And so I started having to dive in and why am I being so reactive and emotional and all these kind of things? And I kind of felt like I had to face myself instead of continually projecting on people because that was getting me nowhere, especially in the rise of
Yeah,
like social justice and online division. It was like, well, this is not the place. I need to change.
I can totally relate to that. I feel like during that time, and I mean, I think most people can. Like you were
Yeah.
literally inside, and you, other than like yourself and maybe your spouse and your kids, like you didn't really have much to do. So it's
Not
like,
much.
okay, well, I guess I'm gonna deep dive into my thoughts and figure myself out here. But
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
can
that's it's
relate to
like, what else do you do? There's only so much Netflix you can watch, right? So it's like
that.
you kind of had to face the shit. But what what drew you originally into like so it seems like from the get-go you've really been into helping people and learning and figuring out and sharing that. What was it that initially struck you to be like, this is it for me. This is my passion. Was there a moment, connection with someone that kind of was just like, this is it?
Growing up, like I had a really close knit group of friends growing up that I unfortunately like exited that group of friends. I still have one girlfriend from that group of friends, but I really understood the importance of community and going through not only just periods in my life where I was kind of more like isolated, but specifically during motherhood. Like the first 3 years of motherhood, I was probably I didn't really talk to anyone. I was in a place living that I didn't know anyone. I was also in a place where I didn't have family. Whether that was a personal decision or not, I still wasn't, I was very isolated. So I, I personally got through it, but I see other women struggling so much. And it's not even just about motherhood. It's just about incorporating, a healthy lifestyle into their life. They're so burdened and overwhelmed that they just don't even know where to start. So I really wanted to hone in on creating like a safe haven for women to come to with a no judgment zone. Like it's not like you need to be a fitness fanatic or like anything like that, just to really help women and like feel good from the inside out. There was also phases through my life when I didn't feel good from the inside out. Like when my younger years, I had hormonal issues, I had skin issues, I was probably I had depression probably, and so there was certain. I feel like God honestly put me through these things so that I
Of course.
can educate and help women on it now, because I handled it so well. But I know that there's women that probably didn't, and I see such a huge gap in women's health and just the healthcare in general. Like my mom, she worked in a dietary office in a hospital, so I was very aware of the healthcare system from the get go and how it's more encompassed on sick care instead of
Root
just
cause.
actually optimizing women's health. Yeah, root cause approaches and keep it healing from the inside out. And I feel like a lot of lifestyle factors can really help heal that. So I just would see women struggling, and I was doing personal training, and I did train men and women both when I was doing in personal training. But I really saw a gap in the industry for women specifically. So
Mhm.
that's what
Yeah.
really drew me to want to build a community for women, that really allowed a more holistic approach for them to heal and grow from the inside out.
Yeah, and that was so important what you said that I think there's a lot of shame when you feel like you've made the choice to leave home and then you don't have your support system. I think that's so important that you said that, even though it's by choice, because even if it is by choice, it doesn't make it easier, right? I used to get that when I moved
Yeah,
away from home. Well, you moved away from home, and it's like, yeah, because there's like parts of me that have to, and you have to grow up. It doesn't make it easy as you're trying to carve out a new life, especially being a new mother at the same time. So I think that's really great that you said that because I felt that too, where it's like, well, you moved away from home. It's like, well, doesn't mean it made it any easier, and I'm glad I did. But you've seen a gap in something that you're providing what you wish you would have had, right? And I think that's what
for
fuels it
sure.
even more because you're like, I know what that feels like, and I just wish that I would have had someone, with the intentions like I did in front of me, you truly want to help because there are people that are out there that do take advantage of like new moms and stuff like that. Very early on because they are so susceptible to, they're so tired and burnt out and rightfully so. And so it's just really great when there's the positive side where it's like, it's not about shame and being the perfect, like before body or kind of thing. It's like, let's get you back to your body feeling good. Like pregnancy and childbirth, I imagine is a lot on a body. Let's get you back to functioning properly. And like the aesthetics will come. It's not the important part. It's feeling good, right? Because like people can look
Exactly.
great and still feel like shit. Like, sorry, the
And
fitness industry has that moment where it's like people are like, "Oh, I want to be that stage lean." And I know people like you that are like, "That's not what you want to do all the time." Like it's, kind of dangerous to always be
well, for
that
sure for
size and
our women,
like that's
yeah.
yeah, exactly. And it freaks me out when people are like, "Oh, I lost my period." I'm like, oh, I feel like there's so many things that we do that like and I'm not trying to judge because I definitely was the type that would use more birth control to skip your period. But then once you become aware of how powerful your cycle are and how is and how much that's blocking, I know we feel the same way about birth control, you really start to understand like, okay, skipping cycles, that's not good. That's going to cause and
Yeah,
compound
and I think that's a
issues.
good point. Is that it's just the awareness. Like a lot of people
Mhm.
are a lot of I shouldn't say people, women aren't aware, and that's why like I even on my platform that I host my clients, I host mini seminars or group chats where I provide just like education for them so that they're
Mhm.
more aware, they can get more in tune with their bodies because realistically, not one woman's cycle and not one woman's experience is ever going to be the same as the
No.
other. So that's why a lot of my programs are very custom, but I work one on one in a holistic way with clients, and it's more so. I think it goes back to what you're saying. Like I'm the person that I wish I had during those times of
Yes.
support, right? And it's exactly what I'm trying to aim at for women that I work with.
Mhm.
But yeah, it just comes down to the awareness of it and really filling in the gap where I feel like the women's health industry and how it correlates with the fitness industry and the health industry has that gap in it. So
Oh, absolutely. And two, I think like a lot of people too, it's like, okay, if you need to be on birth control, whatever form that is, it's like having, like you said, the awareness and understanding, okay, well, what is that doing? What are the risks? What are the repercussions? Like, I've heard that it does deplete like, minerals in your body or you can't absorb things and that it causes some deficiency. So, okay, maybe not terrible for 1 or 2 years, which is what birth control was kind of meant to block you from having periods or you're getting pregnant at a young age, but it wasn't meant to be for people to be on for 20, 30, 40 years, and we're starting to see the repercussions of that. And again, just like you said, there's a gap. So of course there's never going to be crazy amount of studies that are going to show necessarily the bad things, but the risk is on that giant booklet that none of us read and we just throw out. And so if there's an awareness to cycles and being like, hey, if you track, like, we're talking about ovulation a lot, if you're doing that, like, you can work around your cycle to not get pregnant if that's what you're doing. However, I do that. I'm also have problems with my fertility. So it's worked out for me because I've had my own issues. But I feel like if women are more empowered to understand their cycle, it's not, you don't feel as trapped into having to have birth control because you don't want to conceive.
Yeah, and
Okay.
I think that's a huge factor to it. It's like people think, oh, tracking your ovulation, or I should say women, tracking your ovulation and being on birth control is specifically for fertility, or the fact that ovulation is specifically for fertility. Really, it's the biggest health indicator of a woman's cycle.
Mm-hmm.
And like I've mentioned before on my Instagram page and reels, like you can have your bleed and you can have your menstrual cycle, but you cannot be ovulating. There's been studies that have shown. So not only on that, research in general is mainly on men. Like just even outside of like the menstrual
Birth
cycle,
control.
just health research in general. So it's very hard to navigate the fitness, health, and wellness industry for women when they're just lack this type of information of knowledge. But in terms of like birth control, it's just more the awareness that yeah, you can fast your cycle in order to become more in tune with your body. So you don't just need to rely on that for years on end because it's true. You're right. There are nutrition deficiencies that can happen. It can also be the same relative to antibiotic use and can affect your gut microbiome. It can lead to leaky gut. It can lead to gut dysbiosis. I could go on and on. Like
Yeah.
there's so many side effects. Not only that, with like cardiovascular health. I think there was a post actually some women on Instagram. I can't remember her Instagram name, but she's an athlete, and she had a clot in her calf, and she was a runner. She was doing CrossFit, and it was literally due to the fact that she was on such a high estrogen filled birth control pill, and the doctors deliberately said that it was directly related.
That's
And it's just like it runs by it like whew, over your head, right? The doctor tells you it's the right thing to do apparently, and then you just go ahead and do it. And
yeah.
I was kind of tagged into that as well. Like after I had my daughter, I was in a very like stressful relationship. I won't go into detail prior to having her to the point where I had left it earlier when I was pregnant and got put on stress leave from work. So, and I was working a corporate job alongside my coaching business. But um, when I had her, after I had her, I was chatting with my doctor, obviously having checkups, and she said, like, are you planning to have more children? And I was like, at the time, like, I just had a child. Like, I don't really know how to answer that question.
No, no.
But I'm gonna say no right now.
Yeah.
Like, I just want a C section, so I'm
Yeah.
gonna probably say no to that
Give
one.
me five. Give me
Um,
five.
yeah, 5 minutes here. But yeah, then she put me like on an IUD, and I mean, I was on birth control as just like top 6 months when I was a teenager, and it was directly for my skin. And I felt
Yeah,
absolutely
same.
insane because it was the highest form of estrogen, so I just got off of it. But
Good.
she, directed me towards putting the marina in, and I said okay. And I actually ended up having to go for my checkup after you get it in and taking it out because I actually ended up having a yeast infection from, I think it was complications from like the stress that I was having prior to pregnancy and then the pregnancy itself and the
Oh,
C-section. But I had to get it taken out. But even my doctor, she was just like, I definitely felt like she pushed it at the time. She was my doctor
mm-hmm.
at the time, not anymore, but
Yeah.
I definitely feel like it was pushed because, well, oh, okay, if you don't want to have more kids, then you should probably go on birth control. Like that's the only option.
It's the only
Which
option.
bothers me. Yeah, which bothers me a little bit because it's not the only option.
It's
If
not.
you like track your cycle properly, you'll be aware that there's only specific times in the month that you can get pregnant, given that you don't have fertility issues or like the might be something off with your cycle. Um, but you have other options, and I feel like more awareness needs to be brought to that. So
Yes.
yeah.
Absolutely. And what's kind of crazy, I kind of think, and again, I don't know anything about science or medicine or any of that. So please tell me if I'm speaking out of my butthole here.
I
But
mean, like,
when
hey, I don't know absolutely everything, and I'm
I
very
know.
humble to
Yeah.
that.
Of
So
course, of course. But like from understanding from our levels, it's like hypothetically thinking allegedly, da da da. If someone's going on birth control based on like wanting to their hormones, right? It's obviously changing their
yeah.
hormones. Is it kind of wild that they don't really test your blood? They just kind of are like, well, this looks like they're kind of your symptoms of what you're going through. So I'm gonna be my best guess and throw you on this type of birth control that has this amount. I don't really know, and we'll just see how you are. And like you said, like you feel psycho. I know some people that literally was like wanting to murder people, like would think about pushing them into oncoming traffic. And I'm like, I think you should probably talk to your doctor about your birth
Maybe we
control.
should go off of that.
just
Yeah, no,
just
I
like
felt very emotional. Like I'm a very
yeah.
emotional person to begin with, and I say that just in the aspect of I'm a woman. Like
Yeah, totally. A
it's
tutu.
normal to have emotions, but I mean I've learned to manage and direct it in specific ways
Regulate.
over my life. Regulate is a good word.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, anything when it comes to hormones, and I think there was like a meme I was watching one time where guys just like flatline, right? And we're just like,
Yeah.
right? Like there's just so many, and I mean, there's no
Absolutely.
balance in hormones per se. Like when people say hormone balance, there's not balance. You can optimize your ebb and flow throughout your cycles for sure. But
Yes.
yeah, when you integrate a man-made pill into the whole mix, then
Mhm.
yeah, obviously your emotions are going to be a little sidetracked. And that's something that I feel like, most doctors don't talk about too much. They just go over like, okay, do you know like the side effects, like this and that, like very briefly.
Yeah.
But yeah, women just aren't aware of it.
No. And I don't think a lot of women understand even the origins and how many people it hurt. Like that, getting into a history of where it all came from really bothered me as well. I was like, okay, I don't feel good about how this came to be. And I don't love how it was supposed to be, something at a time like where women should have the choice, of course. But I feel like what's shitty is like they have a choice, but they're not informed choices. Like no one at 16 said to me, hey, you know what? When we're playing with your hormones when you're at this development age, like there's a chance that you could not have a baby when you're older. We're not saying you can't, like none of that was ever said. It was like, oh, you have bad acne and you have bad period cramps. Here's some Tylenol 3 and some birth control. Have fun. Like,
Yeah,
okay,
just like a band-aid approach, essentially.
yes, absolutely. There's no talk about, and if they would have talked to me, I would have said, well, I don't know what water is. I don't think I eat at all. I was not physically
Water.
active. Like, like, am I getting sleep? I don't know. I'm 16, but none of that was brought to my attention. I never understood the value of food. I didn't, so it was just like, okay, go. And then the acne continued. It never got better. And I actually got a blood clot from the patch, so that's why I never ended up getting the COVID shot because I had reacted and had a blood clot from birth control. And so I was like, maybe I'm not the best person at the moment because something that they said was fine, like the patch, I ended up getting, a blood clot from when I was 19. So that made me a little bit nervous. And I've had every kind of birth control, but they never tested me or never talked to me about my lifestyle. I never knew that like things around your life, like products,
Oh yeah.
none of that, right? I was smoking, like didn't none of that was related. It was just like you said, a band-aid. Here you go.
Yeah,
So
and I mean, like I was a teenager once too. Like like
no.
I made bad decisions. Like I wasn't like the way I am. Like I've progressed to the way I am now. I would say in the last like 10 years. But like I mean, a lot. I look back at it now, and realistically, like my skin health. And I know I had a recent scare recently, but I had a pretty stressful year last year. So
Mhm.
I directly knew it was related to my gut. But
Yes.
that was another thing. When I was younger, I was on so many antibiotics. I had thrush when I was younger, so that's right away gut dysbiosis,
Right.
candida, which made sense because after I had my daughter, I went on a candida cleanse to my naturopath, and there long enough, like I had a candida overdose.
That's
So
crazy.
like all those things on top of the fact that yeah, when I was on high school lunch break, I would go to McDonald's with my friends. Like
Yes,
you know what I mean? Like
absolutely.
things I wasn't aware about. I mean, I ate relatively healthy. Like I was lucky enough as a child to grow up with parents who had an enormous garden. So I was
Mhm.
really grateful for that. But I mean, there was definitely more times that I'd eat fast food then versus now where I barely ever eat it.
Yeah.
But like back then, yeah, I had antibiotics. Didn't eat as well. I drank. Like I
Same.
was one of those girls in high school that still got good grades, but I definitely went out twice a
Yeah.
weekend.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah. You don't have to be
yeah,
perfect
like
either. You could be
yeah,
both, right?
I was away at the party, but definitely not anymore. I'm like sitting inside listening to free country music, reading a book with my cat. Life has changed.
Same.
But
Same. My eggshell.
yeah,
Yeah. Love
yeah,
giving
but
up.
those are things, right, in my answer. But those are
Yeah.
things that, yeah, doctors could have talked to me about and been like, hey, maybe your skin issue is actually related to your gut and you might have dysbiosis and maybe you can look further into that. And to be honest, I didn't even know back then if like naturopathic medicine was even like
Yeah.
popular. Like that was, I mean, I was 31 now. That was a while ago, but it just goes to show that it's just a band-aid approach because, and I mean, I feel for doctors too because they have a lot of pressure on them too, and I do think
Absolutely.
conventional Western medicine and also naturopathic medicine, there is times when they need to combine. I'm very aware and
Totally.
understanding of that, but I think, and I feel for them because I think they have such pressure because even through like medical school, there's not really, I went through an MCAT seminar when I was in my first degree and I'm pretty sure there was like maybe one or two nutrition classes. So like they're not really informed a whole lot. So I
No.
feel for them. But
No.
it's also too like that's where there's such a the
Yeah.
healthcare system is broken, especially for women.
Totally. Yep, absolutely. And I think that's such a good point. And I agree with you. And I've always been a person to be like, Western medicine has its place. I definitely think it's one of those things where things have gone too far. Like, I've had guests, like with, stage 4 cancer, like I would not be like, oh, take the holistic route. I'd say do whatever you want, but you know what I mean?
For
Like,
sure.
the cancer, you need the chemo. Like there's definitely places for sure. But I think the biggest disservice is leading up to that. Why did we all compound? What compounded over years in our lifestyle? Like you said, preventative, where and they doctors don't necessarily have, I believe from my understanding, they don't have as much training in the preventative root cause. It's diagnosing and then understanding how to prescribe to those ailments and kind of working with the patients and back and forth with the pharmacist, try this, do this. But it's not the preventative, okay, what are you eating, what's in your environment every day that's stressing you, okay, you eat well, you exercise, what's your work stress like, are you sleeping, the very basics that we know to be the basics that we need just to survive. We don't need to complicate it more. And it just seems like instead of being
Exactly.
like, look at the basics first, let's evaluate this. And if all this doesn't work and all of these things you're doing the best that you can, okay, then let's jump into some Western medicine and see if that helps, like anxiety medication. I like if you need it, I totally understand, but I don't believe that's something that should be crutched for the rest of your life. It's like maybe you have that
Yeah,
while you learn these tools, while you build a better lifestyle. Like but the harm that it's going to do for you long term in your belly, even in your mind, and like breaking off some of those abilities for your brains to naturally produce those things because you've been using pharmaceuticals for too long. And that's where my problem lies with Western medicine, is that it's the first and like only when it's like not always, not always,
yeah,
not
and
always.
that's funny that you bring up anxiety medication because when I was in my first degree, and it
Mm,
was in campus setting. So now my second degree is all online through Athabasca. It's a study as you go, which is great with having a child. But
ooh,
I was having such bad test anxiety. Like I mean, given that I was the first year, I was away from home. Like I was doing like the same like organic chemistry, like really hard courses the first year. Huge difference and step up from like grade 12 from what I was doing, obviously. But like
totally.
I had went to the psychologist on campus to go talk to her because I was like, hey, like I can't even. I would get in a room and I would study like leading up. I would study every day, and when I would get in a room with 300 other people in a lecture hall, which was overwhelming to begin with, you see
Yes.
people like crying, like their like life depends on. You know what I mean? Like it's intense. It's overwhelming, but it got to a point where I was like in front of my test and my mind would just go black. And I'm like,
Same.
I don't remember anything. Like what is going on? Like I'm freaking out. Like and so I went and saw her and she was like, okay, well basically like it was honestly like 5 seconds I was in that office. She was like, basically you can take anxiety medication. And I just looked at her and I was like, no. I'm like, you know what? I am going to do this naturally. I'm in a food and nutrition program. I refuse to be on anxiety medication. And so since that point, I've dealt with general anxiety
Good
by
for you.
lifestyle factors.
Good for
And
you.
I mean, I have my moments, and I
Oh,
think motherhood
sure.
probably enhanced it.
Just life, man. Just life in general. Just existing sometimes is just a lot to ask right now. We're
Exactly.
overstimulated. Like, come on. It's fair.
Exactly. But to be honest, up until that point, I was not even like
Mm.
I went for I think I started at the YMCA when I was 16 in my hometown. I got a
Oh,
membership
good for you.
and I would go there on the bicycle and just sit there just so insecure and just so like afraid to be in that gym, which is
Yeah.
just like if someone saw me now, they'd be like, "What? Like
What?
this girl? Like what?" Like
Yeah.
preparing like 45s around at the gym. But no, but I was literally that person. I was so
Totally.
insecure and I just was so scared to be there. And that was the first time I stepped in the gym. But really, from that point on, I maybe went for like runs here and there, nothing to what I do now, but I
Mm.
never really involved myself in having that healthy lifestyle factor of working out up until that point. So following that appointment, that's when like I started, a girlfriend of mine actually was doing bodybuilding first and I was like, oh wow, like she looks amazing, like just so empowered, like I love that
Yeah.
for her.
Yeah.
And it kind of got me intrigued in the gym. So in my, I think it was like the last bit of my first year leading to my second year, I was like, I'm gonna start like going to the gym.
Training.
And that's
Yeah.
when it started. And truthfully,
Love that.
that helped my anxiety. That was like that's what
Yeah.
really drove me to the gym. Other than the fact that I didn't feel confident in my body and I was like very insecure, like I was super skinny. And it's not like I never ate. Like my nickname growing up was Munchie from my family because I would literally eat so much food and then they're like, where are you putting that? Like, it just, so I was like on
Everyone's
the
like
other,
that.
yeah, like I was on the other side of the spectrum where I just eat so much
Yeah.
food and it just like wouldn't even stick. So when I started
Same.
going to the gym, well, that's when it started to stick and I started to gain
Yeah.
muscle. And
Yeah.
then that's when my anxiety kind of like diminished a little bit. I started eating better. So I truly, like to be honest, I'm proud of myself for putting my foot down and saying no to
Absolutely.
that point because
Mm.
I could have been on anxiety medication for up until now.
And that's the problem. So I was kind of against them. And then it was about like 7 years ago. And I had like just left my husband. I quit my gym job where all my friends were. So I kind of like lost everything at one time. And I had a really, really busy, I was managing an oil field company and it was just growing. And I was just not handling stress and anxiety. And I used to be a pill popper for Tylenol 3 because I got started on them when I was 16. So I kind of at like 23 was like, I'm done. I'm not taking pills. I'm not doing anything. So I kind of stressed at like 28, 29, getting on anxiety meds. And the doctor and my mom, like bless her heart, were just like, it's not like you take it and then you have a relief, right? It's something you just got to take every day and it help calm you down. And it did.
That's
But then it also zombified me and like totally dulled me. So I couldn't create with photography. I couldn't do any like I was a fitness instructor like for courses. I couldn't think of anything and I was like this is not good. But like not point did she talk to me about my environment or try to work through those things. It was just like and then I went to her and I was like I don't know if this is working. She doubled it. Went to her a couple weeks later, she doubled it. I was on like set like 50 to like 150 milligrams of like Effexor in like the matter of like 3 months and then on that for so long. And it just I felt like such a zombie and I felt sick to my stomach. I gained so much weight. I just did not have a pizzazz for life. And luckily, that's kind of when I met Grant. And then my life became better because then I was more stable and I had somebody and, I started building my life. And then I was just like, I don't see the benefit of this anymore. I feel like I don't have any emotions. So, and then we were going to Vegas. So I was like, well, I want to drink. And I'm not a huge drinker, but just at least a couple with my
yeah,
new spouse in
okay.
Vegas having a good time. And so I was like, well, I'm just going to wean myself off. Worst idea. I did it within like 3 or 4 days. I was sick to my stomach. I had vertigo for like a
Oh,
week. And I was like, never again am I ever going to take any sort of like SSRI or anything like that. I will go back to natural things. And now I'm just like you. Yes, I have driving anxiety still from car accidents that have like imprinted on my body that I'm still working through, but I don't live in general anxiety anymore. Just like you, you don't live in it. There's moments, of course, especially with motherhood, where it flares up a little bit, or when you're not doing the things that keep you balanced. Things are busy,
Yeah,
you don't
yeah,
get to do your things, and like this is my sign to get back to my routine of things, that the tools that I have that I know that are in my toolbox, and when I don't use them, that's when I'm going to not regulate as good, and then I have to give myself a self check and be like, where are you at, girl? Do some of the things, touch grass, you touch the grass all the time,
oh
so
yeah.
I think
I
I
love
think that
touching
the
that.
yeah, and I think,
That's
like you
funny.
said, it's so great, and, like, I think that Western medicine should be there, but could we maybe look with doctors of looking, "Okay, let's try some lifestyle changes first, and if it's that extreme, okay, let's put you on this really lightly, but I want you to be working at this. Can you go see a naturopath? Can you go see a nutrition coach? Can you, start moving your body and see a physiotherapist or chiropractor?" You know what I mean? Like, those should be outsourced to being like, "This is a team that you need to care for you as a whole
Yeah,
holistic view. Like, here's a therapist, because it's not just one thing, but let's just
no,
put a pill on it so it just masks that and you don't need a team." It's like, no, you do in fact need a team, or you're going to push that team off into your later in life and you've already done a little bit more damage than if you had
yeah.
waited. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's just how I feel. Personal
And it's
hot
about,
take.
yeah, and it's about bringing awareness to that. And that's why I resonate with some of my clients too, because I've been in that position where I had to face the reality of possibly going on medication. I've had to face the reality of experiencing hormonal imbalances or being put on the pill and feeling crazy. And to be honest, that's what I'm so passionate about with my clients now, because I've literally had clients go off of antidepressants. I've literally had clients go off of birth control, and being in mental health disorder programs and being told that they don't need it anymore because the program that I provided to them is bettering their life. And truthfully, like, it's moments like that that really warm my heart and gives me the reassurance that I'm doing the right thing and on the right path. Because truthfully, those medications are not supposed to be lifelong, lifelong things. Like, you really, like, they're a band-aid approach. And I mean, there's definitely holistic and natural ways to go about, bettering your inner environment and your internal health and just your mental health, especially as a female. So yeah, it warms my heart, and I'm happy to hear that some of my clients have had those opportunities to go off things like that, because truthfully, that if they don't, then I clearly am not doing my job properly. So
Yes, and of course,
like,
there's got to be some personal accountability too, right?
yeah,
Because there is
for
people that
sure.
you could lead them to the fish, and they're just gonna be like, "Where's the fish?" Like, right there. I don't see it. So
Yeah,
there is some of
you
that,
gotta,
but
there's a teamwork in client
there's a
practitioner.
yeah, of
For,
course,
for sure.
but that's the difference between coaches and anyone that's caring for you, that cares to see you learn the lifestyle and apply it over time so that you're not needed anymore. Of course, you would love them to check back in after, but you want to see
Yeah.
them adopt, like your title, a lifestyle, not just, you're not just hiring me for this diet for a day or two. It's like, let's teach you how to take care of your body holistically all the way around, so that when you leave me, you can go out to the world and deal with, okay, now I've had a circumstance. Okay, I can't follow my diet plan. What do I do? Okay, maybe I have a little working on my mindset. I work on grace, like, there's
Yeah.
so many nuances. It's not so cut and dry. But I feel like with the cycle, I feel like women's cycle, I really want to talk to you about that, because I absolutely love learning more about that, because I don't think women know that, like, there's different ways to optimize your training or what you're eating, or ways that you can help when your cycle changes. And again, of course, each individual is different, but can you explain a little bit, maybe even just starting with like training to your cycle, like why is there better times than others? Because I just go hard all the time.
So,
Apparently I should not.
well, I mean, I think cycle thinking is such a trend word, to be quite honest. And
Fair.
sometimes I've fallen victim to it, of course, too. But to be honest, I integrate more auto regulation with my clients, because what I've seen in the industry is that, it's not just if you're in your luteal phase. Like, you have your follicular phase, which the start of it is your menstrual cycle. Then you have your ovulatory phase, your luteal phase, and then it goes back into your menstrual cycle. But in your luteal phase, when you're being told, like, oh, you can only do Pilates or yoga, like, I don't agree with that because I think when it comes down to it, you have to, and that's what I teach my clients too, and I work individually with them on it so that they can get better in tune with their own bodies.
Mm.
If you have factors such as, hey, I didn't get a good sleep last night, I underate today, or, I'm under a lot of stress at work, or my partner and me are fighting, or whatever, there's some emotional stress. If you don't factor that in to your training, then that's where I feel like a lot of women go wrong. And then they just think like, oh, I'm in my luteal phase, I have to use Pilates. Like, if
Yeah.
you have the energy to push yourself, push yourself.
Do it.
However,
Okay.
that
Yeah.
being said, yeah, that being said, there are some factors between phases. So, for example, your follicular phase. Estrogen is more geared towards muscle building because it's anabolic, whereas progesterone is catabolic. And so estrogen is also, when you're in that phase, your follicular phase, your muscles are more ample to be stretched better, opposed to your luteal phase, where there's not much room to give for stretching. So there's more, and that gives to more possibilities of injuries possibly in the luteal phase. So that can also be factored in. Like, I mean, if you don't have the energy to push your PRs and things like that in your luteal phase, like, I mean, I don't expect every woman to be a power lifter, but like I'm not. but if you have the energy to do it, then yeah, go ahead and do it. If the next day you don't, then don't. But the main thing is that you're staying consistent. That is the main thing. Like, if you have one bad day and that's gonna totally throw you off and derail you off your training, then you need to work more on your mindset. You need to
Hmm.
understand, like, get in tune with your body. Like, you had a bad day. That's okay. It's not
Yes.
going to make for a bad week. It's not going to make for a whole training block. Like, it's just one day.
Unless
So
you let
that's
it.
what,
Unless you let it,
unless you
right?
let it. Yeah.
Yep.
Unless you let it, then that's where things can go sideways.
Yes.
But no,
Definitely.
that's how I truly like to approach it with clients. On top of that, yeah, the food aspect of it, the luteal phase, because the body wants to be warm when you have progesterone in it, you want to opt for more warming foods, more like, I like to approach it in a way like comfort foods, but more so whole foods, complex carbs, things like that. And you also want to be eating more in that phase, especially more so leading up to your cycle. Like, your body's going to need more calories. But I mean, even if you had a big training day, let's say during that phase, I would just say to clients, increase your food a little bit. Food is so healing, especially when it's the right time.
Yeah.
Um, but I mean, when it comes to the follicular phase, you have your raw foods that you can eat. But progesterone specifically, I'm going to go back and forth a lot because there's so much
That's
information in
okay.
my head.
Let
but
it
like
out.
yeah, progesterone, it slows down digestion too. So that's another reason why warm cooked food is more optimal, because when you have raw foods, it's harder for your body to break down and digest. Um, but other than that, I mean, I wouldn't necessarily say to clients like, just stick to Pilates or yoga during the luteal phase leading up to your cycle. But if you feel like you're more fatigued and you need a rest day, there's never going to be a bad time where taking a rest day is going to like harm your progress. Like,
Yeah,
if
totally.
anything, sometimes I see it as more beneficial. Like, especially when clients go on vacation and they're like, I'm just gonna like go hiking and things like that, and then spend time around my loved ones and like connect with them. They come back and they look better than when they left. So it's like sometimes you actually truly need that, and it really isn't dependent on like cycle per se. But yeah, I mean, there's definitely a lot of information that I'm probably going to spit out, but cycles.
No,
But
that's
I
all
think
good.
that's off the top of my head now.
No, that's not good. Because I've noticed that a lot where it's like some things, I think it's great to bring awareness to some things, but then I think there's a spot where it gets kind of taken into like a trend. And then you hear like,
Yeah,
and I'm not saying that cold plunging isn't good, but I feel like just things like that, right? Where it's just like it is good for you, but then all of a sudden a bunch of people got a hold of it and maybe said some things that's not great for everybody, and then it's then becomes a trend where it's like again speaking like, oh,
yeah,
eat these, only eat these foods in your luteal phase, or only do this, where it's more like I think your message is more listen to your own body and start getting in
yeah,
tune with what it's telling you. So if you're having a day that like sometimes I get days where I'm just sitting at the computer all day, I'm amped up, and I'm in that phase where, I'm supposed to maybe do Pilates or yoga more, but I just want to go throw some weights around because I had no control in my day. And that is the only control that I've had in
And
my
it's a
day because Excel
mental,
has
like a mental
just
piece.
victimized me. Yeah, exactly. And it's like not going to damage, yeah, Excel every day. But it's not going to necessarily damage you, where some people are kind of making it seem like if you do that, you're really hurting yourself. And it's like, again, these blanket statements I think are very dangerous, and why it's important to have more of a coach to talk to, because you're going to be unique, and everyone's going to be different. And heck, even fucking every month is going to be different sometimes, like
Every
you're
day of every
every
month.
damn
It's going to
second
be
if you're a
different.
woman. Like,
If you're a woman, every single day is going to be different.
exactly. Exactly, right? So I think the biggest thing is not taking shame when you hear these bold claims, and just talk to
Yeah.
people about it. Talk to people, like reach out to individuals that are very versed and see different stuff. Like you see different women and their problems all over the place. So not to like point certain things out, but what do you notice lately is the biggest concern when it comes to women's health? What are people struggling with the most, do you find, in the
Um,
industry?
to be honest, like when it comes to what I see women struggle with, a lot of it is like emotional regulation, stress management, because stress has like that's a very broad topic, but like and it can be like emotional, it can be internal stress, it can be like there's so many implications of it. But when it comes down to it, I think that and then just being so overwhelmed by information on the internet and feeling like they have to follow this trend and like do a fasting or do this and like that's the only thing that's going to lead them to results and then they get frustrated and then they just quit. So it's like I feel like they're overburdened by information, the stress, and also the lack of information on what true health for a female is.
Yeah,
uh,
good point.
Especially when it comes to like I try to be a role model to clients in the sense that like I will go through it first
Mhm.
and then you can witness that and then we can implicate it. Like I can't like who am I to give protocols to clients that I haven't even done myself? Like who am
Yeah,
I to do that? That's I
I
just
love
think
that.
that's wrong morally. So like I've been through a lot in my life and and I'm not even that old. I feel like I'm old because of what I've gone through. But like I'm
Your
not.
soul.
Uh,
Your soul's old.
I'm a little soul, but like
Yeah.
I try to practice what I teach so that clients can not only be prescribed protocol that enables them to be successful, but also I don't know where I was going with this, but
No, I get what you're saying. It's like you want
lost
the
train of thought.
No, I totally get what you're saying. It's like you want to make sure that you're leading them down like a successful path, and you're teaching them more than just like a cut and paste. You're uniquely checking each one of them. You're, making sure that they have a
Yeah, exactly.
holistic view. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, no, it's fair. I do that all the time. I'll just be like, yeah, that's a good point. And I'm like, oh my God, we're on a recording. We're talking. I'm the host. Hey, what's up? And I'm a stoner, so add that to it where I've actually smoked out some of my brain cells, So yes, but I love that approach of like filling what you were lacking and what you see lacking in the industry, because you're right. And so many people are like, well, this worked or this study said, and it's like, yeah, but that was based on a bunch of healthy middle-aged men. That's not women with their different hormones. That's not, and there's so many variabilities. And I really appreciate coaches like you that dive into uniqueness, because the amount of copy and paste online fitness, nutrition, spirituality coaches, like I really struggle sometimes, because again, they make these big, bold statements without understanding that people's lives have nuances, that they have struggles, and then they make you feel bad for not succeeding, when it's like your plan is kind of not going to be successful for everyone if it's cookie cutter. So coaches like you that are like,
Yeah,
let's get into like who you are as a person, and like I've done this for me and this is what it worked like, I think it's very important that you, like you said, put the proof in the pudding. Like I tried this out and this is what happened for me, and let's look at you and see how we can apply that. But it doesn't have to always look the same. And to your point of overstimulation, that's where people get frustrated, and they're like, okay, this person said I should do this, but this person said that, and oh my God, I don't know what to do, and then they just give up. Right? So it's like,
yeah,
really, you need to find the niche people and the people that are passionate about what they're doing, because they're going to look at you as the individual that you are, not just a paycheck or a number or a like, or like, part of that 10,000 that they're making a month kind of thing. And I really appreciate that
Yeah,
about coaches like
and I think that's why, like, I've tried to venture down the road of getting like a business coach, and then I've dipped my toes in it. Not actually hired one, but like looked at the process, and I'm like, this is not the route that I want. This is not the vision that I have. This is not it. And
yeah,
as
yeah,
as hard as running a business is, especially as a solo mom, I pride myself on the fact that like I morally can't do things that go against
hmm
my morals. I just can't.
yes,
It's just
yeah,
not how I function. But truthfully, I think when it comes down to women specifically, yeah, they're overwhelmed. Yes, they're overburdened. But the biggest thing I see is not being able to manage their stress, but then
hmm
also being consumed by these trending information, such as cycle thinking, and
yeah,
then they totally disregard even strength training. Like I've encountered situations where women were like, I do Pilates and like I do like body weight exercises, which don't get me wrong, there's definitely can be progress with calisthenics. So like to the extent that these women were doing it, it's not relatable. But like there comes a point in time when it's like strength training and cardiovascular and Pilates, like all of these need to be integrated. All of these can be integrated, but specifically strength
totally.
training because it has so many benefits with insulin sensitivity and blood sugar balance. So it's really essential for me as a practitioner and fitness coach to really address the individual and really hone in on that. So that's really why I picked the holistic coach just to get more of a deep level to get to know the person so that I can help them move in the right direction for them individually.
Yeah, absolutely. And I find too, like, because eventually, if you don't start doing preventative stuff and start moving your body and thinking about what you're eating and your stress management, it's going to compile, right? And then you get to a point where it's like it's harder to reverse. So it's really good to start looking at those things. And it can get overwhelming. And you don't have to start with every single thing, but just getting started, right? So, like, if you struggle the most with a mindset, then find someone or coach that can help you work through that. If it's nutrition, maybe you then start with that, or find someone like you that does all of the different things, but just get started and don't be afraid to be like, I don't know. Even if you're fucking 50 years old, we all don't know everything. That's why we rely on, like, nerds like you that continually no, just kidding, continually educate
Are in school
themselves,
until
right?
they're like 40. I'm just kidding. Hopefully not. Hopefully by the
But
end of
we
like
need it
2 weeks,
though.
I'll be good. Yeah, exactly.
I doubt
I
it.
devoted
I
my
feel like
life.
you'd be
I
like, so
devoted.
then, yeah,
I know. I'm
yeah.
gonna
And I
tell my
think there's
parents.
nothing.
Be like, hey, I'm gonna go get my PhD now. I think they
I
think
don't
I'm
believe you
crazy.
that you say you're done. I think you might be addicted, but that's not a bad thing. It's not, like you can be
No.
addicted to meth and you're addicted to books and learning. Like truly, there
Yeah. There's a
there could
big
be worse.
difference.
Right? So I'd say we
There's a
look
big
at the
difference.
wins for that, right? So that's always my
Yeah, exactly.
comparison. Like, but I think what I love the most is that there's more people understanding the connection of everything now, right? I think unfortunately, because so many people have gotten hurt by somewhere, like myself with anxiety meds and understanding coming off of that, with being a prescription pill addict. And like I was given like hundreds of Tylenol threes when I was 16 years old. Like,
That's
there,
crazy.
yeah. And so the damage that did to my insides, and then I wasn't eating properly, like no wonder why I was
And
100
like
pounds.
your
And
liver too.
exactly. And then you're drinking because you're a teenager. Luckily, I was always the like token white girl, so I always smoked more weed than I drank, but it was still a part of, like, I still drank and I was on, like,
Yeah.
it's just nuts. But I think this new generation is now being empowered. Like you said, holistic wasn't as talked about and mainstream, let's say, as it has been this last little bit, because people are kind of tired of what we're being sold as like healthy food and healthy things. So if we're somebody that, I'm not feeling good in my health, what is something besides like hiring you as a coach, but what are some suggestions that you would say to get started, if you want to have a healthier lifestyle than what you currently have?
So I made some notes on this because
Yeah, no, that's perfect.
but I mean, in general, like start small. I know this take this as a grain of salt, but don't overburden yourself with making multiple things at once because that's the biggest. Even when I onboard clients, like I provide like with specific programs. There comes with a nutrition aspect. There's grocery list. There's recipes. There's a meal plan laid out. I literally say take like 3 of those and start off the first week and then
Yes.
gradually build from there. So it's more about adding more good in than taking away, because the more good you add in, the less room for bad habits. And you start to replace them over time without even realizing it. But
Yeah.
the basic thing is that, specifically with women, there's a few things. I would suggest doing a self audit on all areas of your life that are causing you stress. Look to reduce your stress as best you can. If you can't rid it from your life, incorporate stress management, because that is the biggest thing when it comes to not only gut health it's related to, it can completely derail your gut microbiome. But yeah, and it comes to, it's a very broad topic like stress, but just learning how to manage it. Whether that's like your environment, who you surround yourself with, your daily thoughts. So a lot of times I'll have clients do brain dumps where their thoughts are so negative that I just tell them, get them out of your body. Just get them out, write it out on paper. I don't care how weird you feel, or voice note it or
Yeah.
something if you don't have access to a therapist.
Something.
Because
Yeah.
it's essentially when you get it out of your system, like, and I do this for myself too. It's a process I've been doing for years. When you brain dump those thoughts out of you, you don't think about it anymore. And then you look at it on paper and you're like, Jesus Christ, I was actually thinking that. Like, I would
Absolutely.
never even say that to my friends. So why am I telling myself that, right?
Never.
But then also
Yeah.
internal
So true.
inflammation, your sleep, um, processing trauma. That's a big thing that I'm hoping to possibly integrate into my business as well. Some sort of trauma release practice of some sort,
Mhm.
because it can be stored in your body and show up in ways that you might not even realize. And I've encountered that personally. Um,
Yeah.
and then also physical stress, like are you over exercising, internal stress, are you under eating? So really
Hmm.
focusing on doing that self audit on stress, and then also getting the foundation right. Like,
Hmm.
don't even think, don't even think about like doing a cleanse. Don't even think
No.
about doing like a fasting or anything of a fad diet trend in general if you do not have the foundation right. If you don't have your
Very
sleep
good
right,
point.
if you don't have your nutrition right, if you don't have like some form of exercise going on, um, like don't even think about that stuff. Don't even think about adding supplements in. It's when you add those in and you're like, oh, there's a gap missing. I need to adjust that. Then do that, because that's where I feel like women get
Absolutely.
overburdened and they're like, oh, I need to do this. I need to like. I've had so many women reach out to me like, do you like this supplement? Do you like this supplement? I personally don't even take a lot of supplements. I really don't. And I've
Yeah.
been asked if I've done drugs when I've competed. I've never once done drugs. I've competed in open shows.
Hmm.
I've competed in natural shows.
Good for you.
And I've done it all naturally. It has not been easy, and I might not have been the happiest camper,
No.
but
But
but I
you
still,
stuck to your morals.
yeah, but I stuck to my morals. But the thing is, like,
Hmm.
I really don't take that many supplements because truthfully, I eat a whole food diet,
You
and
do.
I
Yep.
make sure I can do my best to get sleep in. I mean, maybe the first 3 years of toddler life wasn't that easy.
Of course.
Recouping that sleep now. But like, and I exercise, so it's like those foundational aspects of a lifestyle once you address those. But the other thing too, I know it seems like a lot, but it's just like the three main ones is self audit on stress.
No.
If you're like, no, it's not a lot. Self audit on stress, get your foundations right, and then also as a female, make sure you're
Yeah.
ovulating. Make sure you
Yeah.
are ovulating,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
at least track that, because that will
Hmm.
give you an indication. And I mean, I've been tracking my ovulation for about a year now. I've been tracking my cycle for longer, but I've been tracking my ovulation for about a year. Um, and that will give you a really big indication as to whether your cycle is healthy or not. But also, it can give you more information directly to some symptoms you might get. So I would say those.
And it's crazy that they don't do that. And it's like the doctors, right? Like that's what I mean. Like it's just like you get birth control and like good luck. And it's just like,
It completely wipes out your
hmm,
ovulation.
interesting. Yeah,
like,
I just don't I just it kind of blows my mind. It's like, and now that I'm the same as you, I've been tracking for just like my period and the Flow app for like 4 years, I think it is now. And now it's to the point where it's like my body tells me when I'm ovulating, like I'll
yeah,
be like, and maybe I'm not because I've not tested it like you, but I immediately like, ooh, hey, and then I'll like go pull up the app and it's like you're ovulating. I was like, that makes sense, but I never would have had that indication before. Like I never felt my body change. I never even seen that. It's just kind of crazy how we're just raised to be like the cycle that you have on the pill is like that's normal, and it's like that's a normal function of your body, and it's like I don't think so.
yeah.
I feel more natural now than I ever have.
Exactly. And that's the thing too, like some women might think like, oh, I'm like my ovulation cramps are like an indication I'm getting my cycle early, and then all of a sudden they're like, oh, I missed my cycle or something like it just excuse me, it just confuses them. So when you are able to track that, it gives you a better indication of what's going on in your body, like menstrual cycle wise. But those would probably be my top things to start at in terms of a female looking to integrate a healthier lifestyle. The other thing too is, I mean, don't get me wrong, I love coffee, but it also, if you have more than 200 milligrams a day, like if you're topping off at like 4 or 5 coffees a day, I can almost guarantee, and if that's on a consistent basis, I can almost guarantee you're not ovulating. Because I actually, if you
Oh,
have,
really?
yeah, if you have more than 200 milligrams, it can set the tone for your body to like increase cortisol and not want to ovulate, especially
Interesting.
in your luteal phase, because your body isn't apt to handle stress at that time. And I think that's why people correlate, oh, I should do Pilates and yoga and things like that. Your body's not more amped to handle stress during that time. But
Yep.
specifically during that time, I try to advise clients to limit that, especially alcohol too. I totally understand the social aspect of it. I personally don't drink, but anymore. But
Yep.
those would probably be my top things because I'm not really going to be a coach that's going to sugarcoat it and be like, yeah, you can totally drink and make all these lifestyle things. I'm going to be quite honest, it's a poison. Like, well,
It is
the,
poisoned.
the alcohol itself isn't a poison, but when it gets transferred in your body and then top it off with like
Yeah.
sugary things that's going to like inflame your gut and cause like leaky gut, you know what I mean? So those I
It's
was
so so normalized.
it is very
It's so
normalized.
normalized.
It is very, very
Yeah.
normalized. But I would never, like, I'm pretty sure all my clients know right off the bat that I would be like, not promote drinking. Be like, yeah, you can fit it into your
Yes.
macros. Like, I'm not that kind of person. I'm just going to be like, if you drink, try to drink a green tea before and after to negate the negative effects of it and drink your water.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
yeah,
And don't make a habit of it all the time. I
yeah,
went I'm not a huge drinker. Like I said, I'm just stoner, so I've always been more apt to smoke, and that's not better. I'm not saying that. But I've just never liked booze. I never liked being hungover. I was a fitness instructor, so I couldn't be hungover on the weekends. That's when I taught, and
yeah.
like teaching jumping or dance while you're hungover is
I
just not ideal.
can't do
Um
that.
but I do love, yeah, I do love going to the wineries in the summer, but I committed to 3 months completely sober, even though I don't drink often, but it just feels nice to like commit. So I think I'm going to do like 6 months absolutely no alcohol, but then in the
Yeah,
summer, do having, but I'm like, okay, a couple sips and I'm good. Like no more than like a huge glass. And I think that's a huge difference too. Like is like people don't understand the damage it does when it's again continually happening at all the time. You said you're not going to tell people to completely you understand it, but at the same time I think people need to understand the risks that it does, and it's great that we can say we can fit it into our macros, or
yeah,
this is a cheat alcohol, but at the end of the day it's still a substance. You still have to be 18, 19 to drink it. It's still
yeah.
something that bears a negative effect, and further to just your body, your social ability. Like there's some people that cannot live or exist without drinking around others or being social. And I think even for myself, I had to be like, okay, you're not drinking for the next 3 months, that you still need to go out and do stuff with friends. Like,
Exactly.
because you can really very much build your social surroundings around that. And I can understand where some people, where they struggle to be social, that giving that up is hard, but that it's like, but what is the long-term repercussions of this continual alcohol, let's say abuse, if you're
Yeah.
doing it every weekend,
And to be
like
honest,
it breeds
sorry.
addiction
Yeah, it
too.
does. And to be honest, I've been on both sides of it. Like back when I first started like bodybuilding, I was still drinking. I was in university.
Yeah, fair.
And I mean, like, don't get me wrong, I had some nights where I had probably more than 2 drinks. But I was also doing
Same. Been
bodybuilding
there.
at the same time. And I look back at my body and I see how inflamed it was, even though I was putting on muscle, but it was inflamed. My skin also wasn't the
Yeah.
best, even though I was like relatively eating, like a bodybuilder, like the whole
Yeah.
foods diet. But I could see how inflamed it was. And then that also, when I was in university, I definitely had a candida overdose, which affected my gut because I remember this one time I had like this full body rash and it was insane, like a full body rash. And I was like, remember calling my parents, I'm like, something is not right. Like, I don't know what's going on. I'm freaking out. And they're like,
Right.
well, like go to the doctor or something. But it's all these little pieces that I piece together that I've gone through experiences. And I look back, I'm like, you know what? It was the drinking for sure. It was also the fact that my gut health wasn't being prioritized. It was also the fact that like, yeah, I was working out and doing all those things, but there's so many other factors than just fitness and nutrition when it comes to a healthy lifestyle. So that's something that I also teach the clients too. Like, and that's why I truthfully it's why I stopped drinking. I didn't enjoy it, and
Yeah.
I know too much about it where I'm just like it just
Yeah.
completely turns me off. I'm like I just can't like
Absolutely.
I can't
Yeah.
do it. I just don't. And to be honest, I'm like more of the life of the party without it. So there we go.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely. And it sucks that like then people ask you like I always get like a Shirley Temple when I go out because like I won't drink unless it's like either like a winery thing or it's like something big, like going to Vegas. Like I
yeah,
don't just like going for dinner and having booze, but then people are always looking at you weird. So I always order a Shirley Temple. I know it's full of sugar, but there's no alcohol in it, but it looks like an alcoholic drink. So no one ever questions me. They just think I'm having an
I
alcoholic
love
drink with
that.
them. And I'm like, I am sober
Oh,
as
well,
fuck. But I
I'm
mean,
that blunt person. I remember I went bowling with a bunch of people and I flat out ordered a green tea. And I was like, they're like,
I
whose
love
green tea
that.
is that? I'm like, it's mine.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And maybe again, that's the age of not having to have that. Like, I know when I was younger, I definitely struggled with more FOMO, and now it's just like I get more JOMO. Like I'd rather be at like home doing or like doing things that I
Yeah,
enjoy, right? Like and then there's times to be social and do those things. And I don't think that people should fully eliminate it unless that aligns with them.
for sure.
But I also think that people shouldn't normalize and almost glamorize
Yeah,
these destructive behaviors. Like nothing bothers me more when people are like, oh, whatever, I'll just like have no breakfast, hit my vape, have a benzo, and just like drink this. And you're just, and then they're wondering why their lives are, their mental health is in the gutter. And it's like,
and that's the
well,
thing.
I'm not trying to be this way, but let's not glamorize that this is funny and this is cool and this is popular because it leads to very bad things. And like for me, it's kind of like when we were younger, we didn't have social media for everyone's lives to be on full blast to everybody. And so now it's kind of like, where's the personal responsibility in showing up for the next generation, not glamorizing partying and doing all those things. Like I really do think about that because I think about how exposed we were just from movies and music videos and how we were sold that the more people you slept with meant that you were the prettiest girl or whatever, like going to school was stupid and like learning was you're a loser and you're a nerd, like all these stupid things that we were sold. It's like, okay, we've seen how that fucked us up. So how are we going to show
Yeah.
up for the next generation that is seeing that all over social media if you choose to let your children on there, which most people do because they want to be friends with them. Millennials, I'm talking to you. Y'all are the worst at it. Um, with like I get it because our parents were brutal. I totally get it, but
Yeah.
we do have to think about the damages that we're doing with and one thing that I want to finally wrap up with you because I know that this is something that you care about too is like natural beauty and like and I don't think people understand the uh perfumes, the cosmetics, the all the things that we put in our body also affect our hormones because as kids we were like Calgon hair Hawaiian spray and like white eyeliner supreme, like
Alliance
we
way.
we definitely yeah, right, exactly, you could smell that right now if.
Oh, oh yeah.
And so like and what are your thoughts on that and what do you want to see in the future when it comes to beauty products like this? You want to see this natural change, right? And some talk about how this is affecting women too on many levels.
Yeah, so hormone disruptors, so I made notes of this. So essentially they're substances that are not naturally found in the body, and that interferes with a variety of things, such as production, release, transport, metabolism, building, action, or elimination of the body's natural hormones. So we're exposed to that every single day. I mean, to the extent it depends on the individual, but we're exposed to it every single day. And when that's coupled with bad eating habits, not exercising, poor lymphatic drainage, or poor liver health because you drink periodically or you are on prescription medications, things like that, your liver's overburdened, then that like recirculates, and then that leads to further things such as cancer and things like that, illnesses. But the top ones, phthalates, BPA, DDT, those are more common in hormone disruptors. But that can be in anything from like unfiltered water, cosmetics, so like makeup, perfume. Perfume is a huge one. I personally stopped wearing perfume probably about 5 years ago. Um,
Same.
yeah,
Only once in a while. Once in a while when I'm like, "Okay, I know I smell bad and I have to go around a fuck ton of people," but that's like once or twice a year. I'll do like one of these, but that's it. Like same with deodorant too. Like people don't
deodorant, yeah,
realize, like I didn't realize that antiperspirant was actually stopping you from expelling
yeah,
and that deodorant was better. And then I switched to deodorant and then I found out about the aluminum and I'm like, and then too,
yeah,
when you
aluminum
first
food.
stop using the antiperspirant and the regular deodorant, you smell terrible. So then I think people like go back to it thinking, oh my God, I smell. But it's like, just go through it, let your body do what it needs to. And you shouldn't normally, if I understand correctly, like if you really stink, then something's going on inside or you
It's
ate
actually
something weird.
low
But like,
magnesium, low magnesium.
okay, there you
So
go.
it's
See? So
directly
it's a
related to health.
signal,
Yeah, it's a signal. So like
right?
usually
And
I,
we're just covering it up. Like,
yeah, exactly. But it's a lot of things like even like household agents, cleaning agents, and even some
Mhm.
clothing. There's research coming out for some clothing that has it in it. But I mean,
Yes.
I don't want women to feel overwhelmed, and I'm sure other women,
No,
if they follow me, they've seen like Oracle Beauty Cosmetics. This is something that's been in the works for me for a while, and to be honest, I'm still doing research and development on it. But
of course.
it's becoming one of my second babies. But a huge reason why I started it and wanted to look into that side of business is because my daughter is constantly going through my makeup kit, constantly. She's like, I want mascara like you. I want to look pretty like you. I want to do all these things like you. So it's like I have this little person that wants to be me, right? So if
Mhm.
I'm going to be putting all this shit, excuse my language, on my face that has all these endocrine disruptors,
Totally.
that just rolls through my head like a fucking repeat. And I'm like, I'm harming my daughter's health. And I'm supposed to
Absolutely.
protect her. So
Yeah.
like majority of my makeup now, like I use a variety of different brands, but they're
Mhm.
all natural. They're all non-toxic. Anything from my like mascara, my I use Dom's deodorants. They're from Lister.
Mhm.
And then yeah, like my mineral foundation I just use. I don't really use anything on my like I wear minimal makeup, but the thing is
Yeah.
it disrupts your hormones like big time,
Mhm.
big time.
Like,
And if you're not taking proactive measures on helping reduce that, and I mean, don't get me wrong, like I'm not expecting clients or like even just women in general to like completely throw out your shit and then like have
no.
nothing. Like one thing at a time. Like
Yeah.
be aware of it.
Yep.
And then if there's an
Mhm.
opportunity for you to financially, let's say, maybe if it's not in the works, for you to opt for those options, then do so. Because ultimately it's going to lead to better long-term health. And I think
Mhm.
the instant gratification aspects come into it, where it's like, oh, but I smell good in this moment. Oh, but I look good in this moment. And it's like,
Mhm.
yeah, but long term, when you have an illness that you come towards, then how do you look back at that and think that that was a good idea?
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
And at least my thing is just I want people to be informed, right? So
yeah,
you hear women all the time being like, I go to doctors and they don't know about my testing and stuff, da 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 da, right? And like I think that's super important. I'm always for doing whatever anybody wants to do. Like I know I speak a lot about like say like BII or Botox illness or pharmaceuticals and people that have been injured. It's not because I don't think that these things shouldn't exist or women shouldn't use them or with makeup. I'm just saying if you're sick and they're telling you
that's a big thing.
we don't know what it is, that you can look at some of these things in your life and then decide, maybe did it come from the Botox? Maybe did it come from, because like me, I was that way. I had to have so much makeup on my face before I left the house. I'm definitely that millennial that had the line. Okay. I'm okay to admit that. That's
We were
fine.
all there.
But
We were all there.
we're all there, right? And so, and now I literally wear eyeshadow and mascara at the
Yeah,
most. Like, I do not, unless I'm like paying a professional to put makeup on my face, or maybe when me and Grant get married, maybe, I don't know. But I've also like not stopped dyeing my hair too. And I have like, I'm 37 this year.
yeah,
So I have some grays popping out. But then I thought to myself, okay, is it worth, and I know like there could be less toxic dyes and all of that. I'm aware of that. But I'm like, to your point, can I do this better? Can I embrace gray hairs and my natural color and remove that risk of that hair dye, even if it's a small risk? And where are the places in my life I'm willing to be a little bit more uncomfortable and learn to love myself more, because this is maybe putting me at risk. So with my face, it was like, it never hid my acne. You could always see it. It made it look worse. And now I'm putting like potentially carcinogens on my face to absorb in the biggest orifice of my body.
yeah. Your skin is
Once
the
I
best
started
organ.
figuring that out, and yeah, and I was like, "Hey, I can probably lean into just liking my face a little bit more." And I'll say the same thing about Botox. I have a huge what the fuck line. It's very visible that, like I have
I'm gonna
expressions,
be
but
honest. I
I am not
never would have
comfortable.
assumed you were 37, so I'll put it that way.
What?
Yeah, no,
You what? I know so
I
many
thought you
people
were young.
say that. So I'm like, why
You're doing great.
yeah, I was like, why would I get Botox? Thank you. It's the weed, okay? That's my suggestion. It's the
Like the
cannabis.
speaker guys, is great.
Straight up. That's my professional.
That's so
Yeah.
funny.
I'm just zen a lot more at the times, right? But just meaning, like for me, it was like, what's the uncomfortable that we have to go through? And to your point of like needing that instant gratification, like baby girls, if you want to do Botox, go for it. But again, are you aware that there's a black box warning on that? Are you being told by your injectors that you could have droopy eyes? Are you being told that it actually like kills the nerve and it regrows? It doesn't actually freeze your nerve and then just unthaw, like, or thaw, like, but people aren't being told that. So for me, I just want people to know, so they're not being gaslit, because the amount of women that I know have to fucking advocate to be listened to at all is insane. So it's like, I want to make sure they have these nuggets. So if they're hitting roadblocks everywhere, they could be like, maybe I will go join that Botox group and read. And then I find people that, oh my God, these are the same things. Now I'm in contact with people who've been through it and can help push my advocacy for myself. And that's kind of where I want to come with things. Do whatever you want to do, as long as you know what could happen, so you're prepared to make action sooner than later, because
Yeah,
the shit can compound and get worse over time if you don't know the actual like perpetrator of your illnesses and why your body's reacting a certain way. Your body gives you so many flags. So in my opinion, when we're masking them and putting chemicals in on our face, in our food, and again, not to get overwhelmed, but just being aware of this, where can I be better, right? And
yeah.
instead of being like, fuck it, head in the sand,
We're going
it's
in
like,
blind. We're
okay,
going in blind.
yes, yes, we're good. I can't see it. It doesn't exist. It's like, no, okay. Like, and you can keep doing those things, but it's going
Yeah,
to catch up to you, because shit is going to compound, right? No
yeah,
matter what. So be uncomfortable now in your younger age, where you can maybe correct some of these behaviors, like your eating habits, your sleeping habits, your stress management habits. If you can get ahead of those, you're not going to dig that fucking rut deeper and deeper and deeper, where you feel like climbing out of it is so much harder. If you can nip it in the butt as and do it baby step by step. I went from like not even looking at spinach to like eating it raw. I had to like hide it in my veggie smoothies, and then I had to
that's
add a little
really,
bit more. And then I mixed it in with like iceberg, and then now I just can grab it and eat it, but it's, if I looked at like from hating spinach to eating it raw, that seems like such a huge journey. But if you just get started and slowly, find the ways that work for you, just don't give up. Just
yeah. And I
redirect
think it
and
just comes down
like you
to like what you said, being aware and being preventative.
said.
Because, and don't get me wrong, like I obviously have a breast augmentation, and I'm very aware of the possible implications of that. I don't have any like illnesses that I'm concerned about at this moment, but I'm very aware that if that were to come about, I would approach it in a way that they're getting removed, and I have zero problem with that. But it comes down to being aware and coming from a
Mhm.
compassionate, non-judgmental place, because I have friends that do Botox, and I have friends that do, and I have my done. And I think it just more comes down to, like, yeah, I agree, like picking where in areas of life you can do better, or because you're aware of these things, you can be a bit more preventative. I think that's a better approach to it. And I mean, like, there's a lot of things that can even just aid us in general. Like, stress is like a huge one for women. Like, I personally gotten asked if I've done Botox, and I don't, which I think, like,
Yep.
thank the Lord for those beautiful people that think I look younger than I am. But, like,
I know it's wonderful, isn't
yeah, but, like,
it?
I definitely notice, like, in my face,
Mhm.
even if I have one night where it's a horrible sleep, I can see it in my face.
Mhm.
And
Yep,
so
totally.
like stress from different factors, like lack of sleep, like alcohol is a huge one. Like yeah, how you're eating, it all affects like what your skin is going to look like essentially, but and how you're aging. But being aware of it, and then just picking the places that you can be preventative when you can. But yeah, it definitely is a huge hormone disruptor. So when women are encountering issues with weight loss, that's when I kind of looked more in depth into their environment because,
Mhm.
okay, we're hitting all the bases, we're hitting all the foundational factors. What is in your environment that could be implementing such resistance? You know what I mean? So it's good to
Yep,
be aware of that
totally.
because women just think like, oh, there's something wrong with me. No, it might not actually
Yep,
be you.
absolutely. And it's
It's
not
your
fixable.
environment. Like it could be
Yep.
your environment. It's not actually
Yes.
you. So
Yeah. Yeah.
that's a good point to bring up. But yeah,
Yeah, and I think too I hate is when people get upset when you're like, "But you can change." And they're like, "No. Why would you say that? Why would you tell me I'm empowered to change?" And you're like, "I'm telling you, you don't have to live in anxiety for your whole life. I'm telling you." And I get it because I've been in those moments where you're in the throes and you're like, whatever, you don't, but it's I will keep screaming that there's a lot of things that you can reverse. It just might take time
and
and it might
that's
not be
the
easy. And
thing.
so like for me,
It takes
time,
time.
right? Because
People
how
want it right
yeah,
now. Women want it
yeah.
right now,
Yes.
and that's why.
Microwave.
Yeah, and sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but
Right now.
when
No,
when
no,
that
it's
point comes to my mind, I'm like,
go,
go, go, go,
go.
go. But that's why I shared my skin journey recently because
Mhm.
I had very, very fucking clear skin, but I had to do a
Yep.
process to get there. It was 1,000% after I had my daughter. I went through a candida cleanse for about a year, and like after that point, my skin was the clearest. There was days I wouldn't even wear makeup. I had no sauce on my face, nothing. Like it was my skin was. I would like touch my skin, and I'm like, oh my god, I've prayed for this. I've prayed for this because when growing up, like I was to the point where I didn't want to leave. I mean, there are still days now because I'm still feeling that journey where I don't want to leave the
Of
house
course.
without makeup. It's more like mineral foundation. But back when I was a teenager, it breaks my heart seeing myself then and how
Mhm.
horribly miserable I was just because of my skin. How much I missed out on just because of my skin. And I
Yep.
got put on not only birth control, but like prescription medication for my skin. And nothing helped. Nothing helped more than taking that time, that year process of doing like working on my internal health. Like it was mind blowing, the comparison. But
Yeah.
I wanted to touch on the fact that, yeah, the instant gratification is things that stop women. And that even too with like fitness. And that's why I share my
100%.
transformations. Like I went from having a C-section, like I'm pretty sure people saw like my pancake ass after I had a C-section. I don't mean to call it that. I feel like it's coming from a judgmental place. But that's literally what it
No,
looked like.
that's fine.
But
You're allowed to
I was so
be
sad because I
vulnerable.
had an
Yeah.
amazing, yeah, like kids obviously saying. But then I also went through a period where I was in toxic relationships and it completely derailed my want and desire to work on myself and my fitness. So there's different journeys that I share,
Yeah.
and I'm okay with being vulnerable to show women that yes, you can change. Yes, there is things other than medication that you can work on lifestyle wise to help your overall health,
Mhm.
but it might take time. And it's not going to happen tomorrow. You have to stay consistent. And even with my skin, like I had to do elimination when I did that probiotic. It had so much dairy in it, and I didn't even realize it. And once I took it out, immediately my skin calmed down. But like it was wild. I was just like, I have a full
Yeah.
blown rash on my face out of nowhere,
What?
but like also,
Having a nightmare.
yeah, also too, like I had a really stressful year last year, and stress just wreaks havoc on your gut. So I knew immediately I had leaky gut, and I had to work on
Yep.
that. So that encompassed with changing up my probiotics, and making sure I was really working on my overall factors and foundations in health. But I don't mind sharing my vulnerability with things like that because it shows women that if you put in the time and effort, things can change and your health can really do a turnaround. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And that's what I mean. You don't have to be trapped. And that's why I think it's so great that we try to work on like not being shamed by our individual experience. Or I didn't know, like, so many people I find that do become victims of whatever industry it is, like beauty, cosmetic, plastic
Yeah.
surgery, like whichever it is, it's like I didn't know, right? Like I didn't know those things. And so for me, like you said, it's not a good way to come at things about shame. And that's one thing that I love that you did address, like, understanding that there is people that do suffer from breast implant illness, because some women very much discredit them and they say, well, I never had that experience, so therefore it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
And it's like,
No, I'm
well, that's
aware.
not
Yeah.
fair. Like you're blessed that you didn't have that, but that doesn't mean it exists. But the thing is that you're informed, and you were when you went in, so you knew, so that if something happens, especially being someone that's super healthy, you might know then to look there immediately, so that you're not some of these women, let's say, that have had them in for 5, 6, 7 years, having little flags, and then all of a sudden being completely in bad health, and they're like, oh, it's because I'm a mom, oh, it's because I'm not doing fitness right, I'm not, and then they stay in that zone for years. That's what upsets me, right? But I
Yeah.
love that you were honest, was like, yeah, I know, and if that has to be it, I'll do it, but I'm informed, and that's all I care about. And I was always like, yeah, girl, good for you. Like, just, I'm too much of a chicken. I would have done it, but I'm too much of a chicken. I don't want to go in surgery. I'm a baby, but that doesn't mean that, like, I don't think that people shouldn't do it. I just want them to know, because a lot of what I do is interview women that weren't aware, and then they're
Yeah. You
sick,
bring
and they're sick for
awareness. Yeah.
decades.
And
Exactly. And
and
that's
I've
all I want, right?
yeah, and I've gotten actually asked about that, like specifically with breast implants. Like, do you believe in breast implant illness? I am very aware that it is a real thing. Like, there is research on it. So again, what you said, like
Totally.
I usually I do cover all bases when it comes to my health, especially now. And so I know that if something were to come about, that would be the first place I'd look. But someone had asked me previously, I think it was on Instagram, another female, if I believed in it. I said yes. But the thing is, if you're not covering all those foundational bases, like taking care of your health, then you won't know if it's going to come from that. And I think
Totally.
that's where some women are
It's
kind of like
subjective.
ignorant. I don't want to say women in general, but like some people are ignorant towards it
It's
actually
people.
being a real thing because they're like, oh, well, there's so
Hmm.
many other implications. So yeah, if you're taking care of yourself, um, and there's nothing about, then okay. But there's so many factors. Like, your body is a huge
Totally.
system, right? So if you're not taking
Absolutely.
care of yourself in other areas and then something would happen, I don't think it's right to blame it just on that. Like, if you're drinking a full bottle of vodka every day and then you're blaming it on breast cancer illness, then I'd be a little like, raising my eyebrow there. But
Ah,
like,
yeah,
if you're
absolutely.
covering all the
Absolutely.
bases, then yeah. But I'm not ignorant towards them. Very aware it's a real thing. But like you said, yeah, if there was something to come about it, then I know that would be like I was confident before I got them, and I'd be confident without them,
Hmm.
even if I got them removed. So
Absolutely.
yeah, but I think
Absolutely.
it just comes down to making sure that you're aware, and then
Hmm.
clicking into those little areas if you want to, optimize your health in terms of like endocrine receptors or like toxins that you're putting in your body. I mean, people say like pick your poison, but like, yeah, like,
Yeah.
I mean,
Essentially, yes,
there's
because
no
it's
way of
everywhere.
avoiding. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's so many chemicals in the world, and if you're gonna live a life where you're just gonna live in a bubble, really just enhance your detox pathways in your body if you're really really concerned, and then opt to look into other natural
Absolutely.
options. So yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think that's too such a good point. Like, if you're going to do, let's say, opt to get breast implants, like maybe do make sure that you are maybe not having things that could push you into an autoimmune illness, because some of the things that you're doing in
yeah,
your lifestyle is already led you to that, and you're getting very close.
yeah.
Then you put your body through that surgery, and then you come out, and then it's like, well, maybe it wasn't exactly the breast implants that did it, but your body wasn't in a spot
It's not
where,
going to be a good
like, you just
environment to
kind of
add
kept
it.
it.
Yeah,
Exactly, because then it's not gonna maybe it's not healing because it doesn't have the power to heal properly, whereas someone like, say, like yourself may never, or people that don't experience it, um, set their body up success to heal properly, to have it become part of them, right? Where some people didn't. And I'm not like victim blaming at all by anybody that has it. I'm not saying
Yeah,
that,
for
but
sure.
to just correlate every single thing, every single one to being breast implant illness, to your point, I completely agree. Like there's studies, but again, it could be a little bit more subjective. Like, can we see a study on, let's say, people like yourself that are healthy that have gone that? But there's never really going to be studies on that because it doesn't really make money. And
That's
besides, like the explant
valid. Yeah.
world, right? Like plastic surgeons aren't really going to invest in that, and the advocates really, spend their time patient caring and awareness. So I think at the end of the day, with all of this stuff, with cosmetics, with food, all you can do is a little bit at a time. And I think if you have an area that, you're struggling with the most, just start there. If it's
Yeah.
nutrition, like I said, start by sticking a little bit of spinach in your
And no
salad,
one's
and
gonna judge
slowly
you
start
if
doing, and
you're
then you
doing like
feel
a little
better.
bit. Yeah. No one's like, there's no judgment.
Yeah.
Like if you're doing a little bit, like I'm like so amped on women that are like, like you said, I put spinach. Good for you. Like I'm amazed. That like it takes a
Yeah.
lot for
Good
anyone to
step.
do any small thing. So I'm like so supportive of that, and I love seeing that. So yeah, but it's right. Just small changes
Yeah.
here and there. Yeah.
Yeah, and what I like to do is I like to like kind of look at little areas. Like what can I do a little bit in each area? Okay? So let's say I'm going to try and eat a little bit more protein because I know I'm not doing good on that. And then, I'm not going to need to meditate for 10 minutes. I'm just going to try for 3. Let's just try for 3 and let's do that for a month. And then you start seeing the positive impacts even those little changes make, and then you want to start doing more, and then you kind of get addicted, and sometimes that can be unhealthy, to all these changes, but like you just have to find that balance, right? Where it's like you have personal responsibility to change your life and you are powered to do it. There's people everywhere to support you through it. You can always find a coach or an expert or someone on social media like yourself that will share those tips and tricks for maybe people that can't afford it, and there's really not many excuses out there anymore. We have so much information and we have people to help us make that individual. So if people wanted to reach you, where's the best place that they could reach out to you, to maybe have any questions or learn a little bit more about, and then also, can you share what services that you offer for those that may be interested in reaching out?
Yeah, so my Instagram is probably the best place. I'm pretty active on that. I'm on TikTok as well, but in more of like a connection-based conversation, I would probably say Instagram as well. My Instagram is Oracle Beauty Hub as well as Oracle Beauty Lifestyle. And then I also have oraclebeautyhub.com where I have an info box if people have questions, and then my email is on there as well. So that's where you can reach me. And then my services, I have to scroll up there because I was like making notes. So I have various,
There's many.
there's so many. I'm like one of those people that like does not, I'm not prepared to anything. If I do,
Right.
then there's something
Smart.
wrong with me. Um, but yeah, I have various programs. They are essentially categorized by their services. I'm trying to find it here. There we go. So most of the services are related to lifestyle coaching, obviously a very holistic approach. So I don't just service on fitness and nutrition. So I connect with clients on a deeper level, like we've discussed throughout this podcast, but mainly because I'm very aware that there's way more to health, especially for women, than just working out and looking aesthetic and your nutrition. Like there's just way more behind it.
Yes.
Um, but I offer 4 different programs: the Aura, Glow, Align, and Purify. That invite. They are categorized by what they offer essentially, but the Aura program is very mindset, body, like exercise, nutrition, mindset. I said that already, but very like the whole package. And then the Glow one is very nutrition based. The Align one is very fitness based, but they all incorporate the aspect where I connect with clients on a deeper level. So I either have coaching calls with them, or I connect with them on a weekly basis with check-ins and with an in-depth form, along with photos, measurements, and making sure I'm keeping track of all the tools I need necessary to enhance their progress. But it really comes down to healing and growing from the inside out. So encompassing fitness, mindset, functional nutrition, hormone optimization, stress management. And I also provide a lot of education just on the wellness industry and the health industry for women's health on the platform that I use for clients. But I do have an app where I host on my clients as well. So yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah, a
So
little
cool. I
community.
can't wait. We're gonna have to definitely do a little follow up, maybe in like next season at the beginning and see where you've grown because I know you're
Yeah.
just even like every couple of days it seems like you've got something new and that's amazing. What do you see what are you most excited about for the future of Oracle Beauty? What's the most exciting part for you coming up?
Um, so obviously we talked about me furthering the education. So I'm really looking to incorporate that to have an even deeper, like root cause solution for my clientele base. But aside from that, I'm really practicing that psychological thing where I don't really talk about my goals. I let my actions speak for them this year. But because I have done in-house personal training and I've had that, one-on-one in like in-person connection with clients, I have noticed, even though I do my mindset coaching calls with clients on a weekly basis, I am missing that aspect of it. So I'm looking to incorporate that in the future to really bring the name Oracle Beauty Hub to life. So I will say that as a hint.
I love that.
um,
TBD. I can't
yeah.
wait.
Obviously, I'm venturing into some other businesses, but that is probably the outlook on my vision board. But that's all I'll say for that. But really focusing on just growing the community, connecting with other beauties, and the brand, growing the brand deeper itself in 2022. Yeah.
I love that. And just creating, like you said, I think your biggest motivation is creating that kind of world for your daughter in
Yeah.
the areas that you felt were lacking, right? You want to make sure that she grows up with all the support, the knowledge, the understanding of food and nutrition and all the things that we really didn't get to learn. And that's not a shade to parents. That's just the way the world was at that time. And now we have that information and there's so many people that can branch off and, learn lifelong learners and teach all of that. And I think that's amazing that you keep doing that. And I'm stoked every time. I'm like, good, you learn the things. I'll do this. I'll be the token white girl and make funny jokes
I
and
love
you can
that.
teach us about what our bodies do, right? So like we all have our pieces. But this has been an amazing talk, Maria. Is there anything else that you'd want to add that we maybe didn't cover today, or do you feel like we kind of summed up your journey, your adventure, and what you can offer your potential clients?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I was just so grateful to be able to connect with you on here, and it's been such a great conversation. As nervous as I was, but it went amazing. I'm
Of
so
course,
happy you said it.
yes,
But
absolutely.
yeah, I think just in general, like just to speak a message to women that like you don't have to be subject to just what you're seeing or being told. Like there's other options, and you can feel good from the inside out. So yeah, getting that message across. Yeah. I think that's
Yeah, and
good.
people should feel empowered.
Yeah.
Yeah,
For your
people
health.
should be empowered, and if you don't know, don't be ashamed to ask. Reach out to people.
That's the
There's
thing.
no shame.
Yeah.
That's why it's good to share because then people are like that's one thing I've noticed, especially being on the podcast. I'm just always so honest all the time, and then I get messages back with more stories of people because they're like, thanks for being honest. I felt alone, and it's like no one should feel alone. Human experience is hard. Everyone's going through shit, but you
Yeah.
know what? Reach out, talk to people, make a community. Like you said, it's that in-person connection is super important, and just making sure that you have community to cheer you up or like make sure that you're being the best version of yourself too, like not being too soft but being like, yo, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Give your head a shake.
There's some tough
Enough with
love.
this negative talk.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit. Like, I'm gonna tell you have a nice butt, but I'm gonna smack it if you're not being good. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's
Right.
the kind of friends that
Yeah.
we need. So
Yeah.
this has been so great, Maria. Thank you so much for your time. You guys make sure you go and follow her. I have been, like I said, fangirling for a long time, and I seen my opportunity. I was like, I'm gonna take it, so I got it. So make sure you following her. But until next time, guys, bye.
Bye.
Thank you guys so much for the support. I cannot thank you enough for being here. If you like this episode and you want to hear more, please give me a follow at the Be Real Babe podcast on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, Rumble, and Pinterest. You can also find me on Facebook at the Be Real Collective. Until next time, guys, bye.